episode of the Because She Can series. I'm so excited about this week's guest. With me, I have Aundria Littlejohn. She is an associate manager of retail training and development at Coach, and she holds a bachelor's and master's from Arizona State University. She recently placed in the top 20 at Miss New York USA, and she was Miss New Mexico Teen USA 2014. We got to compete at Miss Teen USA together. So welcome, Aundria.
Hi.
Thanks so much for coming. I definitely want to jump into all things pageantry, talk about your career, and maybe that's the right place to start. So it seems like you've made quite the career progression at Coach. What motivated you to stay with the company for so long, and what kind of helped you work your way up the ladder?
Yeah, I think we've all in some way lost that desire to be loyal to a company. And I always heard, oh, jump ship and, that you're replaceable. But Coach has never made me feel like that. They've always valued not just me as an employee, but every single person. And so I decided, well, I want to start my career with the company that was going to take care of me and look out for me. And even throughout the pandemic, they were so great the way that they just took care of every single one of their employees, whether it was just making sure that they had their paychecks on time or that they got the correct severance pay. It literally didn't matter. They were there for us. And that really solidified my wanting to stay with them. It'll be 7 years in October, which is crazy that I started in college and started as like a part-time seller and now I have a full-time corporate job. And part of that is because they genuinely take care of their associates. As a brand, they just stand for great things that I too also believe in and also support. And I think there's just so much to be said about who they are as a whole. And I don't know any other company that does that. I'm sure they're out there, but I'm biased to the company that I work for. And I just think that the bosses I've had throughout the years have always wanted to see me succeed. And it's helped me get to where I am today.
Was there anything specific that you did to make that jump to the corporate side from being in stores, or did it just kind of come naturally?
Not naturally at all. I think people want a quick fix, like it's going to happen overnight. And it took me 6 years to get there. And I was willing to stay with it and work at it. And I talk about this a lot, but having mentors is so important. Part of the reason why I have my job is because a mentor put my name in a space that I wouldn't have been able to access myself. She took the time to look through my resume. She kind of tore it apart, but that's totally fine. She helped make it so much better so that when it came time for me to want to start looking to move to that corporate level, she actually came to me and said, hey, there's a position that's open. I would really love to recommend you for it. And so it took a mentor getting me into a new space that I've never been in before, hearing that constructive criticism of this is not a great resume, let's fix it. And I listened. And then I got my job within 6 weeks after that initial conversation. And that's really, it happened quickly like that. But the back end of it was making all the right connections to get to that place.
No, that's great. I think mentors are so important. I've had some really great female mentors in my career who have definitely helped me when I have that question of, is this the right move for my career? So I'm glad that you had that person. What would you tell someone who doesn't have a mentor and wants to seek one out? Do you have any tips about that or advice that you'd like to give to other women?
Yeah, again, a mentor is so important. I think the beauty about a mentor is that they can see things in you that you can't see in yourself. And they have an ability to help pull those things out and help advance you forward. And that's really what a mentor is someone that's willing to take the knowledge that they know and share it back with you. So when you're looking for a mentor, there's a couple of things that I like to say you should look for. It's always good fruit. A mentor produces good fruit because they have good soil. So they're typically a kind person, a joyful person. They're not jealous. They're not self-righteous. They're not angry. These are people that genuinely want to share the knowledge that they have. Additionally, they've hit the level of success that you want to hit, and they're going to help you kind of navigate those steps to get to where you want to be. So when you're looking for a mentor, you want to find, well, first of all, what have they accomplished? Have they accomplished what I want to accomplish? Can they help me get there? Secondly, do they have time to take me in as a mentee? You want to be able to connect with someone that has time for you. Otherwise, it's just another relationship that you feel like may be one-sided. And then lastly, when you're looking for a mentor, use LinkedIn, use people you already know. Talk to your friends who have mentors. Maybe there's somebody else in the office or in the field that they're in that can also help you too. I mean, don't be afraid to ask. I think that's how you get mentors, is by talking to people and asking what it is that they're doing. And if you can also get that support. And I think that's how people get everything in life, is by asking for it.
Yes, you have to ask. I feel like so many of us are afraid to ask, especially if it's someone that you don't know very well. Maybe it's a stranger, somebody on LinkedIn, but if you don't ask, you'll never know. So that's kind of what I've learned as well. And the same goes for networking, right? If you're out trying to meet people, it's a little bit uncomfortable at first to introduce yourself to strangers, but it's really, really important to do so. So, what has networking been like for you, and how have you used kind of that skill to build your career?
Yeah, networking has gotten me all of my friends. I tell this story, me and my best friend, I went to a holiday party maybe like 3 or 4 years ago now, for a company I didn't work for. I was a plus one to somebody else's holiday party. And I just walked up to this woman. She had on this great outfit. And I was like, I love your outfit. I think we should be friends. And she said, okay. And we've been best friends since then. And so I think that's kind of like the overarching story to how I network. I kind of just go up to people and start having conversations. I think that's part of the reason why I believe if you have the opportunity to take a customer service job, take it. Because if you can learn to sell anything in a store, you can sell yourself without a shadow of a doubt. So learning how to sell a handbag at Coach, I then was able to turn it around and learn how to sell my brand, or sell who I am and what I'm doing. And it made it so much more comfortable, because I got really used to hearing no all the time. People don't want to buy everything from you. And so when I got over the fear of the no, I then looked at networking as, well, not everybody is going to say yes, but what about the one person that does? And so I started focusing on the one. I didn't focus on the 15. I focused on the one person that would say yes, and then decided to just really maximize that relationship. Now, some of those people have gone on to be bosses, friends, or just people that I've collaborated with throughout the years, but all of them have helped lead me to other people, because now they have people in their network that I also want to be connected to, and vice versa. You can't hoard your network either. Like, if you have someone in your network, you need to be willing to share them as well.
Yes, yes. And I heard you say something really interesting. You said selling yourself, which I feel like we don't always think about when we're networking, but you are kind of trying to sell yourself and who you are, what you're about, what you have to offer. And I feel like that's kind of where pageantry has a little bit of an overlap, because in pageantry, it is kind of all about selling yourself and who you are. So how has pageantry and the skills you gained there played a role in your life outside of pageantry? What have you really gained from that? And has it helped you learn how to sell yourself?
Yeah, so like you kind of mentioned, I was Miss New Mexico Teen USA, and then I also went on to compete in the Miss America organization as well. And I think between both organizations, you learn not only the skills, of course, like interview and to share things that you're passionate about, but there's also a really interesting kind of fine line that people don't want to talk about, of learning how to build relationships with the people that are also competing for the same thing that you want. So how do you build friendships with people that want the job that you want too, right? And it's a really weird space to be in. But when I realized, if I can be friends with people that want the job that I want, then I can be friends with just about anybody. And I think there's a misconception about pageant girls that were like catty or mean or rude. I think I have more friends from pageantry than I do from like really any other aspect of my life. And so when I look at what pageantry has done for me and then where I am now, I consider, well, I can be in relationship with just about anyone. I can talk to just about anyone. And then when I think about selling myself, pageants are subjective, different judges, different outcome. It's always going to happen. But it teaches you how to really fine tune, what do I want people to know about me? And I think in coaching, they tell you pick 3 things that you want the judges to know when you leave your interview. And I think that's the same thing in networking and in real life. Like, even in a job interview, pick 3 things off of your resume or out of your life experiences that you want people to know about you. And then when you leave the room, they can say, yes, I know this, 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 and this. And that's perfect. They make a perfect candidate for X reason. And so I think learning that balance between being interested and not interesting from pageantry has allowed me to do that in my real life, which has helped me kind of get the jobs that I have now.
Amazing. I love what you said about being interested and not just interesting. And I completely agree. Some of my best friends have come out of pageantry. Just listing the top 5 best friends that I have. We've all competed against each other for the same title, and we love each other at the end of the day. I think that is a huge, huge misconception about pageantry. I know that we both started pageants kind of young. We were teenagers, and then we've kind of still done them throughout our 20s and our early careers. Did you see participating at that younger age as a teen? Do you think that kind of helped you get a leg up early on in your career in building some of those skills? Because I certainly felt like it did for me, but I'm just curious about what it was like for you.
Yeah, I think it was such a fascinating time, like being 17 and having a state title. It's weird, especially when you don't really know what it means, but you're still trying to figure it out as you go through it. And I remember being 17, about to be 18, and I was finishing high school and starting college. So it was a pretty monumental point in my life to be having a title, going to compete at Miss Teen USA, and then going right into college. But I think Teen USA, and again, nationals in general, anything that you're doing in a national competition, it's a lot. It's hard. And I mean, we were in the Bahamas, so it wasn't like like everything was accessible. I mean, it was a great time, but it wasn't like things were just right there. We could have it. Like, things were structured. We had rules. We had to really pay attention. And I'll even say at a more granular level, because I was New Mexico, I remember being in a group that was like never utilized for anything. And so we had to pay attention all the time, because it wasn't like my group was going to run it on stage. We just had to watch. We just had to pay attention. And I thought that was so interesting. And so to learn that at 17, now in my mid 20s, there are times where I don't get the opportunity to do things, but I've learned to watch and pay attention and know that I can still do it, even without the dress rehearsal, even without practicing it. Sometimes it's about observation. And then just, again, going back to learning how to present yourself well. And this was kind of before I feel like social media really blew up. Like, I think we hit pageants like right at the beginning of it all. And so I think when you learn how to do it in person, it translates well to social media. And I think I was surrounded by women like yourself, who we all had this desire to just want to be the best version of ourselves. And so then when we got to social media, that was the same thing. We just wanted to be the best version of ourselves on Instagram and, now on TikTok and everything else. I think that has helped me in the long run, because there's nothing that I'm embarrassed about on my social media. There's nothing that I feel like I need to take down. And so I think that kind of worked out in my favor to have learned that at such a young age.
Yes, I agree. First of all, at the pageant, the fact that you only get to rehearse for a few minutes, maybe. And I think pageants really teach you that you definitely aren't always in the spotlight. You aren't everybody's favorite. Like, you're in the big leagues now. But I also agree that it's really important to take those skills that we learned as teens, that we learned basically the lesson that what you put out into the world is going to be noticed and people are paying attention. And then that translates to what you post on social media. And I agree. Since then, I've been really careful about what I put out there, because you never know when something's going to come back, when something's going to resurface. You just want to be your best self online and in person, like always putting it out there. So I agree that pageantry really taught us that at a young age, and kind of scared us a little bit, at least scared me a little bit into always.
Definitely. You're like, oh, it was like the judge could be watching. You're like,
yes, like you weren't sure if they were around a corner or if they were somebody's best friend. And, you just didn't, you always had to watch your back. So, but for good reason. Well, I want to pivot a little bit and talk more about your book, because you have mentioned that you're writing a book, and I just finished writing a book, which was a huge undertaking. So I wanted to ask, what is the inspiration for your book, and when can we see it?
Oh my gosh, I know this has been it's been a long time coming, and I finally sat down. I'm like, I'm going to write this. It's going to happen. And there's kind of two books that are happening at the same time. And I realized it was supposed to be one book, and then it kind of got separated. Now I'm like, I think it's two books. And so I have the names for both. One is really about the story and journey that I went through in high school leading up to becoming Miss New Mexico teen. And I was bullied for 4 years, not only by students, but by teachers. And so it's just kind of the underdog story, if you will, of being a football coach's daughter, moving a lot, going to all these different schools, and then having to experience a different kind of bullying for the first time and not really knowing what to do about it or how to get through it. And so it's partly a story for people that are in high school, but it's really for parents who have a child that maybe has been bullied or is being bullied. And I'm calling it most likely to be bullied. Because I always think about, when I think about high school, I always think about superlatives and just all the things that we say people will be. And that was not necessarily one that I thought for myself, but it was the experience that I had. And so I really want to not only empower students, but empower parents to stand up for their kids, have different conversations, ask different questions, and kind of stop things at the start. When we think about mental health, we often forget about our 13 and 14-year-olds that are suffering from people being terrible and being really, really mean. And I don't want to see those kids make a permanent decision. I want to see them choose life and have people in their corner that want to celebrate them. So that was kind of the inspiration for writing that one. And then a second book at the same time. It's been really fun being in my mid-20s, living in New York. I feel like every day it's kind of a blessing to work in fashion and like live in the city. It's just kind of weird. I feel like I'm in my own movie sometimes. And then I posted a video on TikTok that kind of blew up unexpectedly about going on a date, but I had went to the dentist earlier that day and my lip was numb. So I kind of just detailed the saga of having a really numb lip trying to go on a date. And it was so awkward and it was just really, really funny. And I thought, well, you know what? I want to write about kind of the experiences of being single and also being Christian, because it's such a weird intersect. And there's so many stories and so many conversations about like singleness, but they're written by married men, And so I wanted to write a book about singleness from the perspective of a single woman and like honestly share these stories and share things that I've learned from my mom and other women and from my just family and people who've supported me and mentored me in the last couple of years. And so that one is called Consider Me Single. And it's just, it's going to be like a faith-based version of Sex and the City, That's kind of the basics of it. And so hopefully that one will be done first. And so I'm hoping that's out and ready to go by the beginning of next year. That is the goal.
I can't wait to read it. That sounds amazing. That's such a great story, the numb lip. I'm just imagining you trying to like make it through that conversation.
It was so bad. And I was like, you know what? Life happens. And I told him about it ahead of time, but still, it's like my top lip just like would not move at all. And I'm like, this is so embarrassing. But it makes for a funny story now.
Yes. It's always a funny story. It's really embarrassing at the time. And then a few weeks later, you're laughing about it with your friends.
Exactly.
I did want to go back to bullying and the first book that you mentioned, because I feel like that's a really hot topic right now. I focus on mental health for kind of my personal initiative when it comes to pageantry. And we've seen a big increase in depression and anxiety among young teens and even elementary age kids. And I think bullying is a part of that. So I'm just curious, when you were going through that experience, what helped you get through it in the moment? Were there adults in your life that you were able to reach out to? Did you have coping mechanisms? What did you do when you were struggling with bullying?
Yeah, I mean, I needed my community. I don't think I would be anywhere without them. My parents really fought for me and they did everything that they could and they advocated for me. I mean, I have two younger sisters and both of which, I mean, some days it was just them sitting with me. I mean, there was a point in school, I think it was in high school, where I would come home at lunch just crying every single day. Like I was so over it, everything. It just felt so on top of you all the time. And like I said, this is at the very beginning of that social media. And so there were like threats on Instagram and Facebook Messenger, and we didn't yet know the concept of cyberbullying. Like it wasn't really a thing that we had talked about. But I thought there's no way people should be able to send these messages to me and get away with it. And the hard part was I didn't have a school administration that supported me. They pretty much told me that if I didn't want to be bullied anymore, I needed to change myself because I was just too different, or I was too intimidating, or I needed to like be different in order to not be bullied. And I'm like, well, that's not really good advice, And so still having people in my life, like my parents and my grandma, and just other people in my family that were able to say that that's not the truth, like, and tell me the truth about myself, that I was good, that I was kind, that these things were lies, really, really helped. And that's really when I started writing. I definitely started writing around 13. I think I was a freshman in high school, 13 or 14. And I would just write all day. And then I also read a lot. Reading for me helped me to escape the reality that I was living in. And so I fell in love with, I've always loved to read, but I really fell in love with reading in high school. And I figured, well, if my world sucks, then let me read about the worlds of other people that don't suck. Like, let me go there. And that kind of kept me out of trouble until pageantry found me. I didn't even find it. Someone stopped me in an airport and they're like, we think you'd be really good at pageants. You should try it. I'm like, I'm 16 years old. I've never done a pageant in my life. All I knew was like toddlers and tiaras, right? And I'm so glad. I'm so glad I tried it. And I didn't win my first year. I think I came in second runner up. And I thought, you know what? But if I get this feeling every time, like I could keep doing this because it's so much fun. And the second time I won, and then that kind of launched this whole different avenue of people, experiences, opportunities. And I'm still getting bullied, but I was like, there's something more out here and I want to keep finding it. And so pageants for me was kind of that open door where I was able to jump right through and do something different. So, I mean, it really changed me in a way that I don't think I expected. And I don't think many people talk about anymore. And it's like pageants have the opportunity to change lives for the better. Mm-hmm. I feel like they need more of a positive light shined on them sometimes.
Yes. I like what you said, that you competed the first time and you didn't even win, but you were excited about it. Like you had this feeling afterwards, and it kind of started opening your eyes to there's more out there than this experience I'm having in high school where I'm being bullied, where I'm having a hard time. Just like with books, like it's like that escape. And I loved reading as well when I was in middle and high school. I don't know what it is, but I mean, Netflix wasn't really a thing back then either.
Yeah, I was like, it wasn't like, I don't really remember watching TV a lot. Like there were shows that would come on. I did get highly invested in Scandal when I was in high school. Yeah. And I thought, okay, I want to be Olivia Pope. So like and honestly, as crazy as this sounds, that was my thought, was like, well, what would Olivia do? Like she would just go through it. Like she wouldn't, I don't know, I just kept thinking, I'm like, she wouldn't sit here in it. Like she would make something of it and she would do something about it. And so I did. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be in this small town forever. I'm going, at this time, I knew I was going to Arizona State. So I was like, I'm going to a different college and I can be whoever I want to be in college because people don't know me there. And that's, I'm glad I made it there. I'm glad I made it to college. I didn't think I was going to because I was just in such a depression for so long. But, I really sought help, sought therapy, which I'm such an advocate for therapists, like still have one. She's amazing. And I just think that was so important because I was around people that wanted me to succeed, even when I didn't know if I could. And then seeing someone like Kerry Washington play Olivia Pope on TV, especially as this Black woman, it was so cool. Like, it was so cool to watch. I remember watching it thinking, oh my gosh, if she can do that, I can do it too. And I think, again, it goes back to why representation matters, why all stories deserve to be shared, so that when a high school girl is thinking, I'll never make it out of here, they see someone like that doing something extraordinary and they believe that they can do it too.
Yes. I love that she was your role model, and she's a character
on TV. I still love her.
So many friends. I have so many friends who watch that show. I haven't watched the show, but they say the same thing, that she is so inspirational, especially friends back in DC who are very interested in politics. It's like a huge deal. So I agree wholeheartedly. Like if you find someone, whether fictional or in real life, that you aspire to be like, there's nothing holding you back from following in their footsteps and using them as a guide. Like you can do anything. Don't let the doubters or the haters hold you back from pursuing things, even if the only person who believes in you is maybe your mom or a friend, right? You still have the ability to believe in yourself. So that is so, so important. We're a little bit late on time and we only have a few minutes left. So I want to make sure I ask this question, which is, you went to ASU and then you ended up in fashion in New York, which I feel like is a huge leap. And so many young women want to go to New York. They want to work in fashion. What kind of advice do you have to get there, to get to that point? How did you do it? Or what would you say to someone trying to do it today?
Yeah, I would say, even if you're not in a career field or studying something that has nothing to do with fashion, that's totally fine. My bachelor's is literally in political science. I was dead set on being Olivia Pope. And then I met with people that were attorneys, and I'm like, your day-to-day sounds so boring. I don't want that for my life. So I kind of made a pivot. I was still working in the stores at the time. I did end up going back to get my master's, and I realized that I had a love for why people communicate with each other and how they say these things. And so I focus on communication. And my specific degree is on like human relationships. So understanding the relationship between people. You're never not communicating, which I find to be fascinating. And I really wanted to understand that at its core. And so people were like, why would you get a degree in communication? And my biggest response was because I can do anything with it. And so with communication, you can be in any career field doing just about anything. And then I decided, well, why do I have to leave Coach? Like, why can't I do some sort of communication with this company? And so I started looking up opportunities. And then again, I had a mentor in college, my academic advisor at the time. She said, I think you have a really great skill set for training and development. And I'm like, I don't even really know what that means. I'm barely taking this class. We're like 3 weeks in. But she called it. She's like, I think you could do a really great job specifically in this type of communication. And like, look at me now. That's literally what I do for a living. I work in training and development, which just as a branch of communication. And so when I tell people, yeah, I get to do this, I get to combine my love of writing and fashion in one job for a global brand. I didn't think it was possible, but it was literally a mentor telling me, no, you'd be great at it. I believe you can do it. And then I listened. So I think my biggest advice is seek out the people that are going to tell you what you have the ability to do, and then believe them when they say that you can do it. Because I think it's so easy to take the compliment, but not receive it. And so I just want to encourage literally anyone that's listening, learn to receive a compliment rather than saying no. Your immediate response should just be, thank you. I received that. I appreciate you sharing that with me, and leave it at that. It is okay to take a compliment. And it's okay if a mentor tells you you're good at something and for you to say, wow, thank you. I appreciate that. Or I didn't know that I was good at that, but thank you for sharing it with me. Because when you start to believe the truth, then you live it. And then you can have that dream career in New York or in Paris or in London or wherever it is that you want to go.
Yes. And this is something that actually came up in my book. It's the idea that somebody could give you feedback or positive feedback that tells you something about yourself that you didn't know. And it's really important to listen to that and to lean into it, because it could be something that helps steer you in a direction for your career that you weren't even considering before, but that would be perfect for you. So really important to listen to those people who are complimenting you and giving you that feedback. I do want to wrap up. I have 2 questions left. The first is, where can we keep up with you? Are you on social media, Instagram, TikTok? Let us know your handles so we can all follow you.
Yeah. So if you want more of my calm content, go to my Instagram at This Is Aundria. My TikTok is really like my dating saga. It's honestly hilarious. It's a lot about my dating stories, or like fashion, or just general life stories, where I give a lot of communication advice on how to navigate relationships. And that's just Aundria Littlejohn on my TikTok. And then if you follow both of those, then you will be around for the launch of my website. And that's how you will find everything else when it comes to books, blogs, and all the fun stuff.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Aundria. My last question is, any final words of advice for our audience, whether it's pageant related, professional related, any last thing you want to share?
Yeah, let me see if I can fuse them all together. I would say, if you're into pageants, or you're kind of on the other side of us, where I think, we both may want to do it 1 or 2 more times, and we're kind of phasing out of it. Don't take that time for granted. It's a really beautiful time, and don't let anybody shame you for having done a pageant or having won one, because again, there's so many beautiful things that come out of it. And really take the time to learn who you are in pageantry. And then as you move into a professional career, as you start doing the thing that you really want to do with your life, stand for something. I don't care what it is, but stand for something and go all in on that thing. And for me, a big thing is my faith. I tell people, like, I love God. I'm not ashamed of it. That's my thing. I go all in for it because it's a part of my identity. And I never want people to think otherwise about me. And that transitions to pageantry, to my personal life, to my professional life. And so I think to anyone listening, whatever your thing is, whatever makes you, keep that, hold that, because the world wants to take it from you. But if you can hold on to that, then you'll never be shaken. You will never fall. You may fail, but failure is just practice. So just get up and do it again. It's really not failing. You're not going to die. The world's not going to come to an end. You're just going to have to try and do it again. And what a beautiful place to be in, to have the opportunity to do it all over again.
Yes. Oh, I love that. That's the perfect ending. Please fail, everybody. Don't be afraid to fail. It's completely fine.
Totally fine.
So it's always a learning opportunity. With that said, that kind of wraps up our time. So thank you so much, Aundria, for joining me. I'm so happy to be back with the second season of the Because She Can series. Stay tuned for the next episode, and we'll see y'all later. Bye.